We turn our focus in this hour to a new CEO appointment at the construction industry regulator. That's Bongani Dladla. His appointment having been endorsed by Parliament, and he began his day in office for the first time this morning. Thank you so much for your time, Bongani. Congratulations, first of all, and do give us a brief insight on how you fared on day one.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, and good evening to yourself and all your listeners and all your viewers. It was actually quite a very interesting day, and again, I think it's sinking in now the amount of responsibility that has been entrusted in us as we move the industry forward over the next 5 years.
Let's talk more about what is needed, especially the state in which you find the regulatory body in.
Yeah, the entity itself, the CIDB, is a stable entity with solid leadership coming from the board and the ministry, and a very supportive ministry, if I may add. And we are very clear in our mandate as to why we exist. So that helps really in steering the ship in the right direction. Also, we do have good systems in place that will lead us to exercising good corporate governance as we undertake our work. But the industry that we regulate itself is quite challenged, and it presents a lot of opportunities and challenges that we need to solve over the coming years. You know, we all know of the slow pace of transformation that is happening within the industry, the slow pace of rolling out of construction projects, and the challenges that, the socio-economic challenges that our people face when we actually don't have an efficient and effective construction industry. But it presents a lot of opportunities for us to really impact the lives of our people when we commit to do the right thing within the industry.
And it's those challenges that I would like us to delve deeper into. Particularly, you raised the flag around representation in terms of how much of progress still is needed in this particular sector, but also challenges with regards to the current landscape where construction has been dwindling for quite some time and sentiment is on the negative. So what are your priority points here that you first seek to tackle?
Yeah, as the CIDB being a regulator and a development agent in this space, we really have to provide the regulatory certainty that is both developmental in nature but still provides the risk mitigation that our registers provide to the state and the private sector when they undertake construction projects. So we actually have to think hard and actually regulate properly to ensure that the emerging sector is included. We also need to provide tangible developmental support, and that has been heightened by the gazetting of the Build program by Minister Dladla, where the CIDB can now directly have interventions in enterprise development, skills development, and also bridging finance for construction companies, especially those that are owned by youth, women, people with disability, and black people in general. So that is quite important, and it's top of the priority. And also just on ensuring that we run a steady ship, we will have to enhance our corporate governance practices within the entity to make sure that at the center of that there is purpose, there is ethics, and there is efficiency, so that the South African taxpayer and our industry stakeholders see the value that the CIDB is adding in our industry and our economy in general.
Now, the construction sector since 2010 had been marred by collusion issues. Is there a need for the entity to improve on its reputation, especially because a large part of the South African public has felt that these construction companies have gone unscathed?
Yes, for any regulator, it is quite important that you are seen to be effective and you are efficient in how you do your work and you do your business. Why it is important for the CIDB to continue improving its image is that we need to show and actually exercise the power to influence policy, the power to also choose our own regulations within our act, that will drive the transformation agenda and the development of the industry. And we also need to actually be able to call to order those that transgress our rules that we've set out in our regulations, in our standard for uniformity, and all the prescripts that we put out there, because that works against the initiatives of government and our economy as a whole when people are allowed to transgress and they go on unscathed. So we really need, and we are putting a serious effort in terms of ensuring that we are a reputable and an effective regulator, and we are taken as such by everyone in the industry and the general public at large.
It brings me to my next question about the support that is needed by the regulatory body. Of course, your appointment was approved by Cabinet. What's to be said about the backing of role players in the industry that are independent?
Oh, yes. I've seen a lot of excitement in the industry to saying the board, because they've led this process, are putting stability within the entity by prioritizing the appointment of senior executives positions and also ensuring that the entity is capacitated to deliver fully to its mandate. Why it is important to work with our stakeholders. For instance, the build program that I alluded to earlier, it requires the participation of clients to spec and contribute towards the fund that will enable us to do the skills development, the enterprise development, and the developmental finance. It requires large construction companies to provide the mentorship that and the work sharing experiences that happens on the construction site. It requires professional associations to also add their views and also practically add on mentorship and guidance to ensure that we can grow the emerging sector. And also there are quite a few lobby groups, of which what I've seen in the past, it's actually all centered around improving the industry. We have a very dynamic national stakeholder forum within the CIDP, which has many role players, government departments, infrastructure client departments, the private sector, professional associations, voluntary associations, working together to solving some of the complex issues, because the construction industry also plays a central role in job creation. Because, for instance, for every percent you spend on percent of GDP, you spend on construction, you probably create 3% of the jobs. So it has a huge multiplier effect for both the skills and the unskilled. So it is quite important for the socio-economic development of our republic. So it's quite important that we work with our industry stakeholders. And so far they have been supportive, not to say they are always in agreement with us, which is okay to not agree, but if all of it is on the purpose and the mandate of what we are trying to do, it helps us become a better entity and contribute meaningfully to the development and the economic recovery of our country.